The nuns back in Cicero would send me to hell for saying it, but thank God he's dead.
You said you were watching us. Where were you? Huh?
The poor thing had lost her way.
Is she gonna be okay?
She'll be fine, Jimmy.
How do you know?
Just listen.
With only the final 5 episodes left, Kim Wexler is the only main character in Better Call Saul whose future remains unknown, at least through the Breaking Bad finale. Gene Takovic is the other character, although there is a degree of uncertainty there regarding exactly when the Gene timeline takes place. But the other huge and related unknown is what happens with the relationship between Wexler and McGill. After more than 5.5 seasons, that relationship will now be strained to an unprecedented magnitude. It had been tested before, many times over. The biggest test so far was when Goodman made Kim the sucker of his scam, which ironically he was doing because it accomplished what she initially wanted. With the relationship in the balance, just when it seemed Kim would break it off with him, she suggested marriage, and the Wexler-Goodman union would soon become official. But now they must face a number of inconvenient facts about themselves, both as individuals and as a couple. Their actions directly led to Howard's good name being ruined, but the real kicker is that their actions indirectly led to Howard's death. And now their cartel connections have them directly intertwined in Gustavo Fring's aspiring drug empire. It was all fun and games for Kim when she was looking for the thrill of pulling off a crazy scheme to take a shortcut. It worked, and she couldn't have been happier. As is often the case after a successful con, Kim gets all hot and bothered, but this particular long con was a true work of criminal artistry. But now Howard Hamlin is dead, and Kim finds herself forced to assassinate some random guy to save her husband's life. And despite clearly being rattled and under great duress, Kim resisted the temptation to tell the police. She resisted the temptation to just run away, and she attempted to carry out her mission, clearly showing an unwavering love and devotion towards Jimmy. Jimmy did the exact same thing immediately before this, when he insisted that Lalo send her instead, because he didn't want his beloved Kim to be left alone with that lunatic. Jimmy wanted Kim to get away and save herself, and he was willing to face whatever music that madman had in store. Kim and Jimmy were each willing to put everything on the line for the other under the most stressful and debilitating of circumstances. But now that they need to face the music for their own ill deeds, will that unwavering love and devotion grow stronger, or will it completely fall apart? I think there are some clues in their childhood flashbacks, with Kim and Jimmy each having 2 apiece to date. The first flashback was when Jimmy saw his old man getting played like a sucker, and the culprit gave Jimmy a lesson about wolves and sheep. The next flashback is when young Chuck is reading a book to young Jimmy. Then we get our first Kim flashback, when she refuses to enter the car with her drunken mother, and young Kim marches away with her cello. And finally, the scene where Kim shoplifted the jewelry, and her proud mother conned the store manager, got her daughter out of trouble, and still stole the goods. With Jimmy and his old man, the practical lesson young Jimmy would put into practice here was that he was never going to become a sucker like his old man. In that same episode, Jimmy represented Mike and lied on his behalf to get him out of the Salamanca jam with the Tuco altercation. Then he wants to quit Davis and Maine, but wants to keep his bonus. So he starts acting like an unruly menace, and they fire him, where he gets to keep his bonus. And finally, Kim told him she'd be willing to partner up with him if he could keep everything on the straight and narrow. And Jimmy tells her he needs to stay true to himself. So she decides not to. Everything Jimmy did in this episode plays back on the ideal that he was never going to become a sucker like his old man, and he would do whatever it takes to prevent that from happening. Then Chuck reading the book to Jimmy. That little snippet represents everything that Chuck hated about Jimmy and taking shortcuts. Jimmy wasn't even appreciating the story. He wanted a shortcut to know what would happen. And in Chuck's mind, Jimmy was always someone who never appreciated the law and got where he was by being underhanded and taking cheap shortcuts. When Jimmy tries making up with Chuck in that episode, his brother tells him he was never really important to him, and Chuck later takes his own life. But the point here is that even from a younger age, Jimmy idolized his big brother, and Chuck resented his kid brother. And that was the reality of their entire relationship in the show. Jimmy always seeking Big Bro's approval, and Chuck envious of Jimmy's success taking shortcuts. Kim refusing to get into the car with her mother was a bold move from a young lady determined to find her own path and control her own destiny. Later in that episode, Kim finally wants to bow out of her plans with Acker, and she offers him a settlement willing to pay the difference out of her own pocket. She made a decision, and Kim alone wants to define her future path. But Goodman defied her, and he made her a sucker at the aforementioned meeting with Mesa Verde. Kim lost control on how things unfolded, even if she did get what she originally wanted. And just as she threatened they needed to break up, she suggested marriage. Was this Kim in control of her own future? Deep down, did Kim suggest that not only to regain the illusion of control, but was she really happy deep down that Goodman screwed Mesa Verde over? Then the shoplifting ordeal. Kim's mom played the store owner like a mean cello. And in the end, Kim got exactly what she wanted. Not unlike what happened when she proposed to Jimmy. Do or die. Either we get married or we're done. We are done. That episode features Kim and Jimmy learning about the encrypted black book of the criminal underground. Later that episode, Cliff offers Kim what she claims she always wanted, where all of her pro bono dreams of helping the helpless could come to fruition, without the need to scam Howard. But Kim insisted the scam go forward, and even when the entire ploy was threatened and Jimmy suggested calling it off, Kim still insisted. And she abandoned her dream come true scenario because she couldn't resist the thrill of the scam. I think that is exactly what happened with her mother. It wasn't really about getting what she wanted that made Kim so happy. It was about taking a shortcut to get there, and the thrill of ultimately getting away with it. For Kim, it's more about the thrill, as evidenced by how excited she gets after pulling one off, where she at times literally throws herself all over Jimmy. For Jimmy, it's more about a means to an end where he is more of an opportunist. If it were simply a means to an end for Kimmy Corleone, she would have abandoned her plans to ruin Howard, content that Cliff got her the type of funding she required to fulfill her self-proclaimed pro bono dreams. But she was eager and willing to flush that all down the toilet for the thrill. Look how happy she is. That's as good as it gets for Kimmy Corleone. For Jimmy, the shortcuts are really about taking shortcuts. But for Kim, the scam is all for the thrill. The same thrill she felt when she saw her mom had gotten away with it. Jimmy always idolized Chuck, looking to obtain his approval. And after Chuck was gone, in many ways, Jimmy turned that desire to please all in on Kim. McGill wants Wexler to have whatever she wants. And if he can feasibly do something for her, he will. And his driving childhood ideal was not to become a sucker like his old man before him. This leads me to believe that at the end, Goodman is going to become an even bigger sucker. Whether he gets played by Kim or whether he gets played by Jeff the cab driver, that remains to be seen. But Jimmy becoming a sucker, that which he rejected in his father, would prove to be the ultimate fall of McGill. And with his desire to please Kim and receive her approval, he might just be setting up the perfect storm scenario that allows him to fall victim to a con. Kim always wanted to be in control of her own destiny, wanting to do things her own way, solving her own problems her own way, and choosing her own path however her heart desires in a given moment. But Kim is likewise driven by the irresistible rush that comes with completing a con. Even with their intimate interactions, Kim is almost always the one initiating it, sometimes literally throwing herself all over Jimmy after they pull one off. Kim likes being in control, and pulling one off brings her great joy. So if being made into a sucker is the worst thing that could happen to Jimmy McGill, then the worst thing that could happen to Kim Wexler is losing the ability to control her own destiny. Prison? Disbarment? Forced to flee and assume a new identity from Ed? Or maybe even something as simple as not being able to live with the guilt of her own ill deeds. If Kim does wind up being the one who plays Jimmy as a sucker, then Gene has a potential moment of redemption with Jeff the cab driver. If Kim doesn't play Jimmy for a sucker, then I believe that almost certainly means that Jeff will play him. The biggest questions now are how will Jimmy and Kim handle their guilt and the trauma suffered from the Howard Lalo ordeal? And will Kim's lie of omission ever come into play? Kim never told Jimmy how she knew she was being followed. She secretly met with Mike because Mike believes she is made of sterner stuff, and that she was informed Lalo was alive and well. She deliberately withheld that from him. Perhaps with the rationalization that she was protecting him from worrying, but the reality is that she didn't want him to abandon the Howard scheme. Kim knew that Jimmy was reluctant to scam Howard from the beginning, but she also knew that she could take advantage of his desire to please her and obtain her approval. Kim already has a huge advantage over Jimmy because she can play him like a mean cello. So if Kim is going to play Jimmy, the foundation to do so is already there. We know the Black Book comes into their possession at some point. We know that the Saul Goodman character we see in Breaking Bad was developed with strong influence from Kim. We know that Saul ultimately uses the vacuum service, and we know he referred at least 2 others there. And we know there is an important phone call coming up on November 12th at 3 p.m. that involves Francesca. And while no one can say for sure, it seems likely that Kim is a prime candidate to be on the other side of that phone. If the phone call does involve Kim, that suggests she at least survives until the point Goodman gets disappeared by Ed. And it likewise suggests that Kim and Jimmy are on terms that are at least amicable if they are still in communication with each other. Although, strange that the call would need to be made in such secrecy that it somehow requires Francesca's assistance. Is Kim in prison? Did Kim use the service before Goodman? If she did, why didn't he go with her? Is Kim really in charge of Ice Station Zebra Associates? And could Kim have been the one telling Saul to encourage Walt to keep on cooking? Or are they just old pals who talk once every year on Jimmy's birthday before going their separate ways? With Salamanca dead and 5 episodes remaining, I'm fully expecting at least one more childhood flashback for Kim and maybe another for Jimmy too. I have no idea how this will play out, but I do believe there are clues in those childhood flashback scenes. And I believe we will get another piece of the puzzle before the Jimmy-Kim relationship reaches its ultimate resolution. Again, there is some uncertainty about the exact timeline for the Gene scenes and how it directly corresponds with Walt's time in New Hampshire and or the events from El Camino or beyond. But I think there is a damn good chance that resolution happens at the very end, in the Gene timeline for sure. Whether or not Kim comes clean with Jimmy about Mike is perhaps the most important upcoming factor here. Jimmy and Kim are both at a crossroad here. We know the direction Jimmy goes because we see Goodman in Breaking Bad, but this is the single biggest defining factor for Kim. Is she going to want to cleanse herself from her ill deeds, ignoring Mike's advice and confessing to everything? Or is she going to break bad and venture closer to the dark depths of the criminal underworld? Was Kim appalled by the new world she was thrown into, where Howard gets murdered, she becomes an unwilling would-be assassin, and then is taken hostage by a crew of mysterious criminals? Or did Kim find that world exciting and appealing? Perhaps even thrilling. The answer, I think, is whether Kim comes clean about what Mike told her. If Kim tells him, then I believe she will seek to cleanse herself and distance herself from Goodman. But if she never tells him, and he finds out elsewhere or never at all, then I'm liking the chances of Kim Wexler truly becoming Kimmy Corleone. Will Kim tell Saul she met with Mike? Will she come clean? Or will she keep that to herself and get even dirtier? Either way, I am 100% convinced that the golden toilet plays a huge role in the ultimate fate of Saul Goodman and Kim Wexler. Either way, I'm fired up, and I do believe thus far the season has been tight. Yeah. Do you think Kim will tell Jimmy? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and have a wonderful night.
Pollos hermanos, delicious chicken griddle fry. Pollos hermanos.
He's conning you.
Jimmy, what if you're wrong?
It was one beer.
Doesn't smell like one beer.
Well, that's what it was. So, let's go.
Wolves and sheep. Figure out which one you're gonna be.
Really? You're gonna walk 3 miles with a cello. Don't be stupid, get in.
Maybe that's for the best. Nip it in the bud. I mean, protecting her from the consequences.
The poor thing had lost her way.
Is she gonna be okay?
She'll be fine, Jimmy.
How do you know?
Just listen.
Nip it in the bud.
And go our separate ways, or we're...
What?
Maybe we get married.
You may kiss.
One.
Oh my God!
You know she's the best choice.
No, I'm not. I can't do it.
She can do it. You know
No,
she can
Jimmy,
do it. You
I'll
know
stay.
I'm
Stop.
right.
I need to impress upon you. None of this ever happened.
Why are you telling me this and not him?
Because I think you're made of sterner stuff.
I didn't know you had it in you. I got you something. See? Your mom's good for something, huh?
Say it out loud. I need to hear it.
We understand.
It never happened.
Pollos hermanos, delicious chicken griddle fry. Pollos hermanos.
You know, Quasimodo predicted all this.
Who is this? That, my friend, is Albuquerque's public enemy #1.
We're done. When I say we're done.
The nuns back in Cicero would send me to hell for saying it, but thank God he's dead.
The poor thing had lost her way.
Is she gonna be okay?
She'll be fine, Jimmy.
How do you know?
Just listen.
You said you were watching us. Where were you? Huh?
You're done. You are done!